They laughed when I broke, but why did they go silent when I became unbreakable? I still remember the sound of their laughter echoing through the hallways of that high-end restaurant, a sound so sharp it felt like it was carving my failures into my skin. At 26, I sat there with my head bowed as my two best friends, Leo and Clara, joked about how my big dream had finally tanked, leaving me with nothing but a maxed-out credit card and a pile of eviction notices. They weren't just laughing at a business failure, they were laughing at the fact that I had finally fallen to their level, and they loved the view from above. To understand the weight of that laughter, you have to know who these people were to me. Leo, 27, was the guy the first grew up with, the one I'd shared every secret with. Clara, 25, was the person I'd helped get a job when she was at her lowest. We were a trio, or so I thought. But the truth was, they only liked me when I was the hopeful dreamer who hadn't made it yet. The moment my digital agency started to actually show promise, the air between us changed. And the moment it collapsed due to a bad contract and a dishonest partner, they didn't offer a hand. They offered a punchline. I sat there that night, listening to them talk about how they saw it coming, and how I should probably just go back to working a dead-end retail job where I belonged. I felt small. I felt broken. I felt like the world was right and I was wrong. Have you ever had the people you trusted most celebrate your downfall just so they could feel better about their own lives? I left that dinner with $3 in my pocket and a heart that felt like it had been put through a wood chipper. I walked home in the rain because I couldn't afford the bus, and as I walked, that laughter played on a loop in my head. It was a poison, but as the miles went by, it started to turn into something else. It turned into a cold, hard clarity. I realized that my mistake wasn't failing. My mistake was caring what people like Leo and Clara thought about it. The next 2 years were the quietest of my life. I disappeared. I changed my number, deleted my social media, and moved into a tiny basement apartment that smelled like damp earth and old books. I took that retail job they mocked, but I didn't see it as a defeat. I saw it as a paycheck that funded my next move. I spent every hour outside of that job learning. I taught myself the things I didn't know before: risk management, legal protections, and high-level coding. I lived on coffee and frozen meals. I didn't go out. I didn't date. I became a ghost in my own city. If everyone you knew expected you to stay down, would you have the discipline to prove them wrong in total silence? I realized during those long nights that being broken was actually a gift. When you're broken, you can see the pieces. You can choose which ones to put back and which ones to throw away. I threw away the need for approval. I threw away the fear of looking stupid. I realized that Leo and Clara weren't my friends. They were my mirrors, reflecting back a version of me that was weak and desperate for validation. To become unbreakable, I had to shatter that mirror. Slowly, the momentum shifted. I launched a new platform, something I called Aegis. It wasn't about being flashy, it was about being essential. It was a cybersecurity tool for small businesses, born from the very mistakes that had destroyed my first company. It didn't blow up overnight, but it grew steadily. Every time I hit a setback, I didn't spiral. I just adjusted. The laughter from that restaurant became the white noise in the background. It couldn't hurt me anymore because I had already felt the worst of it. By the time I was 29, Aegis was no longer a basement project. It was a powerhouse. I had a team of 50 people. I had an office with windows that looked out over the city. But more importantly, I had a sense of self that wasn't tied to my bank account. I had become unbreakable because I had learned how to fail without letting the failure become me. The reveal happened at a charity gala I was invited to speak at. I hadn't seen Leo or Clara in 3 years. I didn't even know if they still lived in the city. But as I stood backstage, adjusting my tie, I saw them in the crowd through the curtain. They looked exactly the same. Leo was still wearing the same smirk, leaning against the bar, probably making a joke at someone else's expense. Clara was busy taking a selfie, chasing the same fleeting validation we used to crave together. When I was introduced and walked onto that stage, the room went quiet. I didn't look like the broken kid from the restaurant. I looked like the man I had built. I saw them. I saw the moment they recognized me. The smirk on Leo's face didn't just fade, it evaporated. Clara dropped her phone. They didn't cheer. They didn't clap. They just stood there, frozen. The laughter was gone, replaced by a silence so heavy it felt like it was pressing them into the floor. Would you take the opportunity to rub your success in their faces, or is their silence enough of a victory for you? I gave my speech about resilience and the importance of choosing who you let into your inner circle. I didn't mention them by name, but I looked right at them when I talked about the people who try to bury you, not realizing you're a seed. After the event, they tried to approach me. They tried to act like nothing had happened, like we were still the old crew. Leo tried to put a hand on my shoulder and talk about the good old days. I didn't get angry. I didn't even feel the need to call them out. I just gently moved his hand away and told him that I hoped they were doing well, but that I didn't have room in my life for people who only show up when the sun is out. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was final. I realized then that they weren't silent because they were happy for me. They were silent because my success was a mirror they couldn't stand to look into. It proved that their excuses for their own stagnant lives were lies. Being unbreakable isn't about never falling. It's about what you do with the shards when you hit the ground. I learned that the most dangerous people in your life aren't your enemies, they're the friends who want you to stay exactly where you are so they don't have to move. I walked out of that gala and into the night air, feeling completely at peace. I had lost 2 friends, but I had gained myself. And that's a trade I'd make every single time. What do you think? Is it possible to forgive people who laughed at your pain, or is some silence meant to last forever? If this story reminded you that your current struggle is just the setup for your comeback, please like, share, and subscribe to join our community of those who refuse to stay broken. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever had someone go silent once they realized they couldn't look down on you anymore? I want to hear your stories. Would you have even spoken to them at the gala? Let's talk below.